D1, projectiles launched horizontally. Number 1, a baseball rolls off a 70-meter high desk. So the first thing I want to do is I want to draw my picture. Here's a desk. This is my baseball. It rolls off the desk. So again, this is my frame of reference. And I want to draw a picture of the path, what it's going to look like. The desk is 0.7 meters high. So because I'm measuring from here down, we see that my y direction is going to end up being negative. And it strikes the floor 0.25 meters away. So this horizontal displacement here, that's x. And then it says, how fast was the ball rolling? So in this case, I want to find the initial velocity. Step number 1 is I always need to draw a picture. After I draw my picture, I'm going to write my given, but for projectile motion, I'm always going to do a 2-column given. Because my horizontal and vertical motion is independent of one another, I'm always going to do my x and y given separate. The first thing that I'm going to do always is, I'm always going to write that ax is 0 and g is equal to negative 9.8 meters per second squared. That's always going to be step number 1. Step number 2 is, I'm going to write the horizontal and vertical components of the initial velocity. So I'm going to have VIX and I'm going to have VIY. Now the problem is, they didn't give me VIX in this problem. That's actually what I want to find out. But I know that the initial velocity, this is VI, and VI is all horizontal. So I know that VIX is equal to VI and VIY is 0. Because this is going all horizontally, it has no vertical component. So right here, just knowing this is the key to doing this problem. So now here I'm going to write VIY is 0. The third step is to look and say, what else do I have in this problem? Well, they gave me y is equal to negative 0.70 meters, and they also told me that x is equal to 0.25. So the next step is, where do I start? What do I do next? Well, the next step is I look on each side and I say, is there one side where I have 3 things? So I see that over here I have 3 things. So I know that I'm going to use the information there. So I have little g, I have VIY, and I have y. Now what do I want when I don't know what to do? When I'm doing a problem and I don't know what to do, I go to the end. And I say, well, what do I want to find in this problem? Well, in this particular problem, they want me to find VI. But what I also know from over here is that VI is equal to VIX. So once I find VIX, I'll be okay. Now, the problem is VIX has to do with X stuff. All the stuff that I'm given, I know what? Y stuff. So now I'm going to say to myself, what is the one thing that is the same for X and Y? It's the time. So if I find the time here, then I can put it over here. So that's how I know I want to find the time, because I have 3 things and I can find a 4th. So that tells me, so that's why when you write your given, you write your find, you go in order, and you say, what do I do next? I go to the end. I want to find VIX. Well, obviously, I can't find VIX because I only have 2 things on that side. So to get a 3rd thing would be the time, and the time is the same on both. So now I'm going to say to myself, well, which equation has these 4 variables? G, VIY, y, and t. So that's my equation. Y is equal to VIYT plus 1/2 GT squared. I know that VIY is 0 only in these types of projectiles. So I have y is equal to 1/2 gt squared. And I know I have y and I have g, so I can find t. So I'm going to rearrange the equation to solve for the unknown in terms of the known. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Then I'll divide both sides by g, and then I'll take the square root of both sides. So t is equal to the square root of 2y over g. So now I'm going to substitute in my values. So it's equal to 2 times negative 0.07 over negative 9.8. And this is where it's important to be consistent with your sign convention. Remember, our frame of reference using our standard Cartesian sign convention is where motion begins. And we're using up and to the right as positive. So that's why the 0.7 was negative. And then this negative in the numerator cancels with this negative in the denominator, and I don't end up with a negative under the radical. So now on my calculator, I'm going to press 0.7 times 2 divided by the 9.8, and then I'm going to take the square root, and it comes out to be 0.377. So I'm going to write down that t is equal to 0.38 seconds. Now, once I have this t, what do I have? I have ax. I want to find VIX. I have x, and now I have t, so I have 4 things. So I'm actually going to use the same equation, but now horizontally, x is equal to VIXT plus 1/2 AXT squared. AX is always 0, so this disappears. Now, most of the time in the textbooks and the way most people teach this is, we know there's never any horizontal acceleration. So they say, oh, here's a brand new equation. It's this same equation, but because the horizontal acceleration is always 0, it's going to end up being this. So now I'm going to rearrange this equation because I have x, I have t, and that's what I want to find. So I'm going to divide both sides by t. So x over t is equal to VIX. And that's going to be equal to x, which is 0.25, divided by 0.38 seconds. A meter divided by a second is a meter per second, which is my correct unit. And then 0.25 divided by 0.38 ends up being 0.657, so we'll say 0.66 meters per second. And that is our initial velocity. So again, the key to doing these problems is to do them step by step. And how do I do this step by step? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my picture. Then I'm going to separate my x and y given. It's ax is always 0, g is always negative 9.8. I'm going to take my initial velocity and I'm going to break it into horizontal and vertical components. Now this one was actually a little bit tougher because they didn't give us the initial velocity, but because I knew that the vertical component is 0, because it's all horizontal, I know this is 0. They gave me x, they gave me y. So when I wrote down the 3 things I had, g, v, y, and t, and if I don't know what to do, I go to the end. The end was to find vi, which is VIX, and I'm like, I can't do that because I don't have 3 things on the side. So I knew if I found the time, because time is the same on both, once I find the time vertical, it's the same as horizontal. So when you don't know what to do, you go to the end, and by working problems and doing it step by step, the problem solves itself, systematically, step by step.